Good morning. I'm Rev Myron. I'm a minister through Pathways of Light, and I've been a Course in Miracles student for 40 years. I'm going through the lessons this year, asking Jesus to clarify for me as I have in the past, and then I'm writing from that clarity, and that's what I'm sharing with you today. So let's get started. We're looking at lesson 260. Let me remember God created me. Father, I did not make myself, although in my insanity I thought I did. Yet, as your thought, I have not left my source, remaining part of who created me. Your Son, my Father, calls on you today. Let me remember you created me. Let me remember my identity, and let my sinlessness arise again before Christ's vision, through which I would look upon my brothers and myself today. Now is our source remembered, and therein we find our true identity at last. Holy indeed are we, because our source can know no sin, and we who are his sons are like each other and alike to him. Well, God is life, and life cannot create death. Of course I didn't create myself. Of course God created me. That's self-evident, right? I mean, everyone knows that. And yet, do I really believe it? First of all, would God have created me as a body that is flawed and fragile and vulnerable? Would he have created me as something that would die? God is life. Life cannot create death. So this thing I have thought I was, this body, this human being, must have come from somewhere else, since clearly it didn't come from God. Every problem I seem to have resulted from not believing that I am as God created me. Even thinking on the level of the world, we think we were created by others, and that we helped form what we are. Have you ever told someone that you were surprised, maybe even shocked, to hear yourself say or do something your parents did? I remember the first time I did that. I was wondering how it was that I turned into my mother, especially since I said that I would never do that. This was me projecting what I thought I was onto my mother, her being my cause. More significantly, I was saying that I am not what God created, but some combination of influences and decisions I made. Now that I understand this, and now that I know that God created me, and now that I realize how insane it is to think I created myself despite God, I don't do that particular thing anymore. And I watch my mind with great vigilance for all the ways that I still claim to be something I was not created to be. My vigilance is how I ask for and accept the Holy Spirit's correction. Here's something I wrote about last year. This doesn't happen often anymore, so my practice is helping me. For 2 nights in a row, I wakened at a very early hour and lay in bed consumed with worry thoughts. The first night it happened, I couldn't seem to stop them in my usual way. So I just got up and started my day really early. As usual, I started with a daily lesson. Let me remember that God is my goal. As I wrote about it, the last of the effects of those thoughts faded away. This morning, it was just too early to get up, so I got up long enough to shake off the sleep so that I could think. I reminded myself of the truth and came out of the ego fugue. I wanted to be sure I was using the word fugue correctly, so I looked it up. The definition given was a state or period of loss of awareness of one's identity. It was absolutely the right word. Getting overcome by worry is a loss of my identity as God's son, and was the effect of forgetting that God is my creator. By the time I was myself again, I was wide awake. So I listened to a meditation followed by A Course in Miracles and slept well. I woke refreshed and aware of my identity. This decision to not believe the ego thoughts, even as they kept trying to drag me down, was a decision to receive the peace of heaven. And in receiving peace, I was giving peace throughout the one mind. Additionally, since I did what it took to clear my mind, I woke up peaceful. So I will give peace to those I spend time with today. Most importantly, I rejected the idea that I made something of myself that is not part of God. I am more certain than before that God is my creator, not me. I decided it was time to release all guilt directed at myself. So a few years ago, I went to the Queen of Forgiveness, Kate Greaves. Here's how our conversation went. I said, Kate, you told me once that you forgave your father completely. I forgive pretty easily because I understand what forgiveness is, and because I'm pretty single-minded when it comes to my purpose. So I asked Jesus who it was I had yet to forgive, and he told me it is myself. I felt the truth of that right off. Do you have any writings or talks that might be helpful to push me through this? I keep thinking I've forgiven myself, and then a memory will pop up, and I see I haven't. And Kate said, this is what came through. Nothing was ever done as the ego has any effects on God's love, has never had any effects on God's love. God's love is whole and complete. I thought I'd failed as a mother many times. Jesus told me that nothing I think I did in the past has made a blip in truth. That is why nothing real can be threatened. All the ways I thought I had failed as a mother, ways that I had had some effect on her life, that I had somehow caused her to take drugs, well, forget it all. He said, everyone has their own path. But here's the most important part of the message. It is that no matter what you think you have done in the past, you don't need to forgive yourself. There's nothing to forgive. Because nothing you have done as ego has any effect on anything. God's love is shining and is just radiant always. And we here in this world have no effect on that. So we just need to let it go, knowing we've had no effect on anything. One thing I did years ago is I sat down and did the meditation with Jesus. Just imagine yourself sitting on a bench with Jesus. Just talk to him and get him to answer you. Tell him you feel guilty for this thing or another and ask him for the answer. This is what I did as well, and that was really beautiful when I had his answer. The visualization I did where I joined Jesus was very powerful because at the time I felt I had a big black hole in me. He put his hands in around the black hole and simply drew his hands together, and it was gone. I think talking with Jesus is where the answer is, Myron. He is a symbol of radiant love. His answer will be accepted by your mind. His answer is stronger than the ego's. And his answer will clear out even the smallest belief of guilt. So this is what I did, and I felt so much better in every way. I see the ego trying to interest me in guilt again, but I also see that I'm not interested. I woke up in the night and I started thinking of 2 different instances when I did something I've always regretted, and that usually throws me into a guilt trip. But I also noticed that I thought about those times and felt nothing. Whew! This morning during my meditation, I went back to Jesus to tell him I want to be sure there is no guilt directed at me, and asked him to remove even the smallest belief in guilt. Then, 3 months later, I wrote to Kate again, and this is what I told her. I want to tell you exactly what you did for me when I asked for your help letting go of guilt. I did what you suggested, and just as you told me it would, the guilt fell away and has never come back. With that big block of guilt gone, there was so much light that everything began to happen very quickly. I also got a message that helped. I wondered what else I needed to do and when I would awaken, and the message I received is that it's up to me. I took that seriously, and I started asking for help and accepting that That helped with far more conviction. I began to feel different, as if something major had changed. When I got to Portland for the Regina workshop, I talked to her about something that happened and how I felt about it. She said very casually, "Oh, you have reached fundamental well-being." I didn't know what that meant. Later that weekend, I was given some pages from a book by Jeffrey Martin on his study of awakened people. Fundamental well-being is a word he used to describe them. I had been moving in that direction so long that the actual arrival went unnoticed. I told Jesus that I thought this was going to be more dramatic. Anyway, I have to tell you that I am eternally grateful for your help. You were instrumental in this. That guilt had to go, and I had done all I could think of doing until you gave me that one more prompt that did it for me. I told a friend that for me, it was like every time I let go of some belief, I was taking a step toward a very long road. Then one day I let go of something else and I took another step forward, and I was on a different road, one that is smoother and easier and much happier. There really is a sense of fundamental well-being that never goes away, no matter what is happening. Even when something that would once have sent me reeling happens, and I felt the emotional reaction, there was an underlying sense of everything was fine, and the emotion passed on by very quickly. I see now that I had stepped onto that very smooth road, but I still have work to do. There are still ego thoughts that sometimes grab my attention, and then I believe for a little while. But now it's so much easier to let them go, and the process is faster. I'm certain of my purpose and clear as to at least what I am not. For instance, I am not this body, and not contained by this body. I know that we are not different from each other, that we're all exactly as God created us, and everything else is just an illusion, a dream, an ancient memory. Though I don't experience myself yet as one with all there is, I know it is true, and I move closer to that as I felt experience. Regina's tip says, our special theme, there is no sin. Creation is unchanged. What is creation? You are creation. What you are is what A Course in Miracles means by the word creation. In my thoughts, oh yes, one of my favorite passages from the Course. We are creation, we, the sons of God. Here is one of my conversations with the Holy Spirit, and this was from 2009. I was feeling elated because I was beginning to get it, to understand and to accept what Jesus is telling us in the Course. Then the ego mind joined me there in that confident, happy place and began its argument for helplessness and hopelessness. I saw myself judging in nearly every circumstance, looking at my brother and seeing the ego version of him. As I remembered several of these instances from just this morning as I went for coffee, I could not believe that I would ever extricate myself from my error in thinking. It's just too much. As I watched my mind pull up sin after sin for me to consider, I watched my confidence and happiness flow away. Holy Spirit said, "Precious one, think not that you must undo your creation through your own strength. You need only want your memory restored, and through the power of God in you it will be done. Nor is it necessary for you to look at each error one at a time and choose again. Your many errors are simply symbols of one error. Their value lies in showing you what you want to give up and why you want to give it up. So you need only look at the many until you realize you want to give up the one. Do not look at your errors with guilt or fear, for this gives them solidity and seriousness they do not deserve. Rather, imagine that they're just snapshots of the same thing, but taken from different angles and at different times. Look at them to decide if they still please you. If not, simply discard them as you would an out-of-focus picture from your album. You have a million different shots of the same thing. Why would you choose to keep what does not please? Do not feel guilty when you take a picture of something. Do you feel guilty when you take a picture of something and then lose interest in it? Or do you simply toss that picture away? With this daily practice, you will soon realize that none of these pictures reflect you truly, and you will simply set them all aside as one. What will be left is a one vision of the Son of God as he was created by his Father. There are many moments of judgment. Those many moments of judgment are the natural effect of separation thinking, but thinking does not make it so. It simply makes it seem so. You have done nothing, and when you are tired of doing nothing, you will stop. Precious child, you have merely allowed yourself to focus on the story. Turn your attention to your purpose. Let your mind dwell in that holy place. As you watch your thoughts, remember why you watch them, rather than getting lost in the story. Thank you, Holy Spirit, for bringing me back to what is true and helpful. Thank you very much for watching this video, for joining me in this lesson. And if you found it helpful, then please like it. And if you haven't yet, please subscribe. And I will be back with another lesson.